As we come close to the end of another financial year, many organizations look to assess the impact of their year-long work. This practice of monitoring and evaluation, or impact evaluation as some of us like to call it, is a crucial part of every organization's plan to not only design their upcoming year's strategy and operational plans, but also to use the learnings to drive fundraising activities. With the COVID-19 pandemic still continuing to disrupt businesses and programs of organizations, it is expected to cause a major hindrance to the conventional M&E processes and procedures followed by many nonprofits.
Transforming Nonprofits with Sattva Consulting.
Welcome to Transforming Nonprofits. I'm your host Nishkarsh Swarnkar, and today we have with us Bobby George, who is a principal with Sattva and heads our impact measurement and advisory practice. He brings over 15 years of experience in program design, implementation, and evaluation while leading several programs at nonprofit organizations. Bobby will share with us why M&E is not only relevant but an important exercise even today, and how nonprofits can adapt their practices to conduct M&E safely during a pandemic. Hello, Bobby. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Nishkarsh. Very happy to be part of this.
We are nearing the end of a very tough year, Bobby. Right? In a typical year, monitoring and evaluation is something on the minds of nonprofit leaders during this time as we enter the last quarter of the financial year. However, This has not been a typical year. So let me start off by asking the big question. Is conducting M&E still important in a pandemic year?
Very important question, Nishkarsh. And I would say it is very, very critical this year, particularly. Two reasons in my mind. One, look, the resources are very constrained. If we are looking at the funding ecosystem, there is a bit of a gray area everywhere we can see. Especially when we talk to the funders, they're saying that, committed funds are already given or maybe promised. But next year, there may be some constraints that they are not very clear. So when we have constrained resources and funding, it is all the more important to track it and spend it very, very stringently. So monitoring and evaluation, in a sense, has to be strengthened during this pandemic year and moving forward as well to ensure that we don't waste any resources. The second point is also that while this no waste mantra in our mind, to negotiate with the funding ecosystem that give a clear budget for monitoring and evaluation for this year is very important. So clearly articulate that budget and negotiate with the funding ecosystem. And in my understanding, everybody is ready to spend that money for M&E if it is logically asked.
Got it. And I think it's great to hear the importance of M&E is only increased, if not stayed the same. That brings me, I think, to the next question, Bobby, I have. In a typical assessment exercise, the first thing we usually start off with is to identify what data we need to collect. Again, that's more of a thought through exercise in a typical year. But this year, again, many nonprofits have had to either pivot from their existing programs or make significant changes to adapt their programs. So how can nonprofit organizations identify what kind of data they should be collecting to understand the impact of the year?
Very critical thing in our mind, or this question in our mind, that what data and how much is the quantity and who are we providing this data? So in my mind, there are three lenses we can apply. First, the desirability lens. So what data is most valuable for stakeholders? As we know, there are a number of stakeholders and their importance. And what do they want? What is their interest in this project? The funders to the implementing organization, to the last mile delivery staff and the beneficiaries, the policy level influence from the government, all of these are stakeholders, and many of them are looking at some or the other type of data, and it is making sense to them. So the desirability lens is the first one. Second, I would say viability. as we know that this year is already a lot more constraints that we can see, whether it is profitable for me is also a question. What is my budget? Can I really, the last lens I would say feasibility. Can I do it using my existing capacity or capability and people? So looking at these three lenses, we will understand the importance of data and what kind of data that we have to collect as part of monitoring and evaluation. That is one aspect of it. The other side, I would say, bring in a little more global lens or global frameworks rather. We have the OECD DAC framework and some of the lenses there also we can pick up the relevance and coherence lens. The leaders and the decision makers always will think about this data is giving me some kind of answers whether my program or project is relevant to the ecosystem or is it in connection with other efforts that are going on in that particular geography. That relevance and coherence lens is important when we collect data. Effectiveness is another strong lens. While we implement some projects, the quality of that implementation, the rigor of implementation, the delivery team and the management team can actually bring a lot more decision basis the effectiveness related data. Efficiency and impact. Funders are always looking at, how my money is utilized, whether it is utilized at the description given at the time of proposal and beginning of the year or the beginning of the project. And they are also looking at whether the outcomes that was agreed upon at the beginning is also realized. For the founders of that organization, we'll also look at, I am running this organization and the project for the last 3 years. Where is it going, right? Is it sustainable in the long run? Will I get funding continuously or someone else will adopt it in the community or the government will take it over? So when we look at these lenses together, I think we will get that clarity on what data and how much we have to collect.
Thanks, Bobby. I think that the framework of desirability, viability, and feasibility is really strong one. And also keeping in mind how the needs of the stakeholders may be changing and their expectations from the data. So I think that's a very helpful way of thinking about it. Now, typically, a usual next step is to figure how this data should be collected or the methodology of data collection. Now, given the constraints of the pandemic are far from being fully over, what are some ways in which nonprofit organizations can collect data without incurring a significant operational cost?
Very relevant question, Nishkarsh. Again, we all at times we've heard of this practice called remote data collection. That is something that we have been practicing in Sattva Consulting for our projects. I know there are a lot of players in the market also use this at multiple degrees of intensity. I would say any organization without spending a lot of time and resources on it, we can efficiently manage remote data collection during this time. Not only during this time, and if it is relevant, take this, adopt it as a good practice moving forward as well. While I say remote data collection, there are multiple ways using internet and digital and technological support and all will also help us. But very simple telephonic interviews also be very effective. When it is remote, there are very, very strong tips or maybe instructions or guidelines that we have to keep in our mind. One, get the right team members to collect data, because the data collection and driving a conversation to dig deep without wasting time is very important. So look at the people who have already worked in the sector or a thematic area. They speak the right language. They have already engaged with these kinds of studies in their past experience. Is very important. Whether they are experienced or not, it is very, very critical to have a training program at the beginning. So we are explaining and demonstrating how it has to be driven, the administration of these tools, so that everybody has the same standard of data collection. Very important. And also set some expectations of constraints, right? So It is not a cakewalk. It is very difficult to reach out to these respondents during this time. And we also have to be very mindful about they are also undergoing a lot of struggle. So, don't look at it as an easy conversation. It will be very difficult conversation, multiple attempts that we have to do. So create that expectation setting at the beginning during the training. As and when the data collection is getting started and moving on, we can also ensure that we connect with them and get an appointment from them. And it is important that we are not taking them for granted. Explain in very transparent and honest way that why we are collecting the data and how is it valuable for the particular person who is giving information, and also to the benefit of the larger society and community. So they will be able to give honest answers, and transparency will also be established. Another tip is that don't make it as a very long conversation, because the attention span will be very less. 15 to 20 minutes will be ideal. So these kinds of tips will always help us to collect data in an efficient and time bounded.
Thanks. I think these are really useful tips to keep in mind while we do data collections. I think these are really going to be helpful for any of the field staff. Now, you spoke also about virtual evaluations. In your experience, what have been some practical constraints that one could face in conducting virtual evaluations?
One, the accessibility. At normal times itself, when we conduct telephonic interviews, the hit rate is like 5 calls you make, 1 will convert. Even after the NGOs or the implementation partners have given you the database, this is the case. So just imagine that during the pandemic, things will be very, very difficult. Reaching out to the beneficiary will be very constrained. So ensure that you have multiple kind of attempts to deal with this accessibility issue. So they may be also traveling. They might not have the money to kind of recharge their mobile phones and also. There are a lot of those accessibility issues, and that will also lead to some kind of a sampling error, because if we need to have some data of population, if they don't have accessibility, then you can expect some sampling error, or the method has to be changed. That is one. Responsiveness also, I mentioned that the hit rate will be badly affected. Time limitation is another thing, that it will take time. At normal day, you can make 10 calls and 10 conversions. So therefore, the data collection time that we have agreed, it is going to be a lengthier one. Instead of 5 days, it might take 7 to 8 days. The last one, but the critical one, is the quality of data. And if we are not getting the right answers, and sometimes the responses and the answers will be muffled because of connectivity issues and all, keep on getting the right answer, or maybe track that. While we collect the data, we also have technology tools and to support us to track and monitor it on a daily basis. So that which data or which respondents' data is not clear, and monitor that quality on a daily basis. Also, you can do that. So these are some of the constraints and a mitigation plan for managing these issues on ground. I think a very important aspect of behaviors: be more and don't get into sensitive areas of their life. They are not comfortable with any type of answer. Please don't push them unnecessarily. And as I was also talking about, build that honest and transparent behavior trait, so that the respondent will also reciprocate accordingly. So be empathetic, be honest, transparent, and respectful about not asking some of the sensitive questions. If at all you need to ask those questions, get extra permissions in advance. So these are some of the behavioral aspects I would actually suggest.
Thanks, Bobby. I think that is really useful. Now, I think the last question I have for you is, given that this new mode of virtual evaluations, we are entering into this because of the constraints that the pandemic has enforced upon all of us. And this has its fair share of positives and negatives, as we've already very well explained. But how do you see these practices continuing or changing in future? Do they change the way in which nonprofit organizations pursue monitoring and evaluations more fundamentally and for the long term?
Very, very interesting question, Nishkarsh. And I would answer it very ambitiously because that's how I see the changes in the sector. I could imagine the M&E or any impact measurements are happening without human interfaces in the future. So already we could see that the learning apps, for example, the Google Learning app, which is originally Google Bolo and now it is Read Along, that the artificial intelligence in that application will help the students to improve their reading competency. And if they can build that artificial intelligence, they can also build an assessment component in that. As then when you read and read along, you will also be evaluated by the computer. So there is no bias, there is no subjectivity. It is very clearly assessed or measured by the computer. So I can totally imagine the technology is going to play a very, very critical role in assessments, moving social impact assessments moving forward. Having said that, there will be always a blended model. There will be technology and digital skills and digital support will take a larger role in assessments, but at the same time, human interventions will also happen at different levels, especially a country like India. Penetration is not that great in our country. It might take some time, but I think it is a phased manner. I can totally see technology is going to play so much in the impact evaluation space.
I think this is really helpful, Bobby. Thanks a lot. I think you covered a lot of ground in helping nonprofits figure out how they can think about and approach M&E this year. So I think thanks for all your great insights into the process of monitoring and evaluation. I hope a lot of our nonprofit audience finds this really helpful and implementable on the ground.
Thank you. I hope this will be somewhere helpful for the listeners.
Sure. And we hope to have you sometime back on the podcast as well. Thank you for listening to this month's episode of Transforming Nonprofits. We really enjoyed talking to Bobby about the various ways in which nonprofits can adjust and adapt their M&E practices to the constantly changing environment. We especially liked the part in which he explained the behavioral aspects of conducting such an exercise with stakeholders and how this ties to the success of an impact evaluation. This is your host, Nishkarsh Swarnkar. Thank you and see you in the next episode.